Is something called as iterables. Iterables means what? Any function that supports for loop on them are called as iterables. To understand more about these iterables, we can check. Say I am taking the list. List is an iterable. String is an iterable. These are all iterables. So with iterables, what we can do? Let's take one of the iterable, which is the list. Collections are all iterables, in fact. If I take a list and if I ask, hey, what are the values? It will print what all the values it has. So same like any other things. Now with this, what we can do? There are some built-in functions, a couple, which help us to things do much better. So first, there is something called as max. If I do max, I told you can do help or like using question mark within this. So help is some built-in function which will give the max value and it can do the things much better way. But before that, the traditional way of usage I will tell. If I give some values to it, the help, so it will execute and give us the first value. But still it is taking a moment to connect to the activate the Python notebook. Yeah, she here. So it executed the first values. And when I give the docstring, it is saying like max of iterable, and it will give the, so there are some optional things like default equal to what and others. Okay, among these values, if I told max, means what is the maximum value among them? So which are is maximum? 4 is a maximum value, right? So that's why in terms of value, which are is highest, you're getting that. Now you can do the max in different ways. So in terms of the numbers, so max is, this is more. What if you want to get the maximum number of occurred thing, maybe like a rank, in standard deviation, so statistics we have like, so rank means which are is the highestly repeating. So means like we can get the values dot count of something. Values is a list has a count attribute. If you ask like say, hey, give me how many times 3 came, so 4 times. How many times 4 came, so it will give the corresponding things. So based upon that, if you want to do something, so for that also max will help you. So what I'm trying to say, it's not like based upon the value, based upon some counts also we can go and get it. You see now what happened? So max value is 4 as we know, but when I set the counts of 2 and 3, you can notice that 3 got a count of 4 and 2 got a count of 2. So that's the reason for each number there will be a count, right? Based upon the count, if I want to do, this is how you do it. So you need not check like how many times each occurred, and you need not do. So of course, if you want also you can do, but things can be much more better if you do like this. In the same fashion, you can get a minimum also based upon these things. So if I say minimum, minimum in terms of value or minimum in terms of values dot count. Sir, what if I want to have a customization? That's where we need to write functions. If you write a custom function and pass here, and it will apply on each of them, and whichever gets the minimum value, so it will give it. So this is about max and minimum. And next one is that if let's say I have values here, so I within the value say I can say I can say like each number in values, if I try to print it, each number, you can see each number you're getting. Maybe you will take a value, say something like a total, like add result is equal to some, by default it should be 0, and instead of printing we can do like, so add result, so plus equal to that value. If I do like this, every time it will add, and finally instead of getting the individual values, I will get the total sum, right? So if you want to add all the values, this is the first way of doing. Similarly, for this also there is one built-in function called as sum. If you use sum and pass any iterable only, you cannot pass individuals. It will exactly give the same thing. So don't you think that so this sum function is useful? Not only this sum function can also do one more thing in extra. Means apart from adding all the values within whatever you have given, it can also give something like an extra thing. So before going there, say let me show here itself. 1, 2, 3 I have. If I add, what are I am getting, right? And similarly, I can pass like a list, tuple, set. I can pass a set. So what will happen if I pass 1, 2, 3, again 3, 2, 1 if I pass? Now tell me what would be the sum? Sum takes the end result, right? As you have taken everything in a set will first remove the duplicates and you will get only 1, 2, 3 only. That's the reason, though you have more values, you're getting the same result. These were the functionalities. And now the next point about this sum is that, so we can also give some kind of offset. Means the total values result if you do, it will get some value. Apart from that, if you want to add something, see I'm doing plus 0, plus 4, plus 100. If I do, it will add and the result will get the same. So what are the result you are getting? So plus this given number, you will get it. So this is our how about sum. So only we can apply these on minimum, maximum, so sum, all these things on iterables only. So one more thing is there. Say like you have values. If I print, again values will be the same numbers. If you wanna do sorting, hope you remember when I did the list also I told there are two ways of sorting. So we can use a built-in function called as sorted and you pass the values, you get the result. And it will create a new object in fact. So new object is created. So original list is not changed. Whereas if you want the changes to be done on the same variables, because like I want to prove that. Did you see after doing sorting, you got all in a ascending order. But if you see the original list, it is not changed again, right? But if you want the changes to be on the original object, there is an attribute. Did you observe? This is called as a built-in function. This is called as an attribute. That's the difference between these two. And after doing these things, if you ask, hey, what are the values? So did you see that the original object is also changed? So to conclude again, sorted built-in function will create a new object which is sorted in an ascending order by default. The same thing will happen for sort also, but it will create in-place changes. So in-place changes means, so what are the changes were there? It will be on the same object. Now we understood the difference between these two. And similarly, whatever we have done earlier, like that we can do here also. I can do sorted. This is what just now you learned. This sorted also I can do in a different ways. If I say, hey, do the sorting based upon values.count, means which are is occurring twice, so least that is coming first. See here, two are occurring only 2 times. That way it came first. Next fours, next three came like 3 times. Next three, sorry, one came 3 times. Next 3 times, 4 times. So in terms of their counts, it is getting sorting. And whatever the sorting may be, we can do reverse direction also. So reverse equal to true if you do, the same sort result you will get, but in a reverse direction. You see, for the first one also I can do. So if I remove this one, so it will do the same thing. In fact, okay. So maybe like I will show you much nearly. You see now, the original thing, we have like only values and reverse equal to true. You see the same values in a reverse direction you got. So here also the same thing. So by default, the reverse will be false. Whether you give like directly or not. So you see, both the results are same. Whereas if I say reverse equal to true, it will get the same result in a reverse direction. So key is up to us. If you don't give any custom key, then it will do by default. So if you do any custom key, it will do based upon what you give. Next, so based upon these things, you can learn one more point. So reverse. If you want to reverse anything, you use the sort only for reversing also. Reversing means what? Instead of ascending order from small to high, descending order will happen. Reverse equal to true means. Now, there is a difference between these two. This is the most important thing. Many people get confused. So even if you do list dot reversals and reversed are two things, which will not give the values in a descending order, but it will just change the order in which you give. Let me take a small list. Okay. So let me take a small list and try to do the reverse and show you. You see now, I took a small list. I'm printing the values and I'm doing a dot reverse and I'm getting the values. Observe, I didn't do it in ascending order nor descending order. I gave some random values in one order, whatever the order I want. And observe carefully, what are the values you give? If you want their reflection, means reverse values, we can go with dot reverse. Hope you understood. And the values, if you want a reverse of them, you can also do with slicing, right? Colon -1. In fact, that also will give the things in a reverse order. Of course. So it may actually made changes to the original object. So that's the reason, so you're getting again. In the same fashion. So we have one more thing called as reversed. So reversed is a built-in function which does same like reverse only, but it will not create again a list. It will create something called as a list reverse iterator object. Means it's kind of lazy. So next we will learn about this kind of objects in the next chapter more clearly. But you can think like, instead of reversing everything and storing in this object, whenever you're asking, so one value at a time, it will give in reverse order. So for understanding them at this stage, we cannot understand. So that's the reason I converted to a list for it to show. But it is not a good way to do. So generally when you have large values, we make use of this only for doing. Okay, then fine. Apart from this, let's go for one more example. You understood about the list, sorted and all these things. Next, there is one more thing called as um, uh, zip. Zip is another built-in function which we can use. So we have seen this also. If you give like two iterables, it will try to combine them. If I say 1 2 3, and if I say like another say tuple I give, so 4 5 6, if I give, it's gonna give the same like this, but a so optimized object. As we can't get anything out of it, either you need to do for loop or convert to a list or something. Say for now I'm just converting to a list. Our understanding, zip how it is working. When you give the values, it tries to give based upon the positions. Zeroth value, first value, second value, like that it will go. But if you give something less than that, so whichever is having the least size, it will give that size in the end. And not only that, so let's say if I have some values, right? Say values equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, I have. But using what you have learned right now, say zip off, if I place same values, okay, values comma values of, so one column, can I do like this? So if a yes, so from the same values, it is trying to go and get it. So the first value and the next value, like that is going. And similarly, so the same thing you can do with another different ways. So this is all about iterables and what kind of things we can apply. Now, so assignment for you is that, so try all above. So using, so strings, I did with a list, right? You try with the tuples, sets, and dictionaries. You try them and see how it is responding. Now, going for the next thing, that is functions. What do you mean by function? Functions are a very basic thing that in a functional oriented programming. So I told you in general, programming is of three styles. So one is aspect oriented, means like you just write on a pen and paper how you do one after the other. But like whenever there are some code which is repeating, that's where like we go with the functional oriented. So there is much better way called as a object oriented programming. As Python supports three, and three also we can do as per wish. We can check all of them. But first of all, to check like what is the usage of this functional programming, how they can help us. If I say here, okay, see here. So first of all, code reusability. That's the most important thing about and modularizing a problem means like if you have a big problem. So let's say you want to create a bicycle. So then like there should be someone who should create a cycle. So a wheel. Someone should create the other wheel. Someone should create the mud gears, middle part, and all these things, right? So when the big task is there, we can divide to parts and give. That is the importance of modularity. When something is was like modularized, it is better for maintenance, right? So these are the three things I'm saying. And again, I will go with like functions like this. First and foremost, first of all, why we need a function? Let me check that. Okay. So what do you mean by functions and why we need a functions? If I see that, you can understand that. Say, first, let's say I have print of hello world. I want printing like 4 times. So I'm just giving a small logic, but let's say I'm doing a big logic also. But whatever I am doing, first I need to execute them. So in this particular case, we observed that the same print statement is printing all the times, right? So instead of printing all of them at one shot, we can create a function and then you call the function. So there are two parts in any function. One is a definition. Def is a keyword for defining. So what are the function name? You define like what are you have. And if you execute, did you see in this case? So instead of executing 4 times, you created once and calling any number of times. Maybe you may think it's a foolish because like it's just a print statement. But just to give you some kind of understanding, I gave this example. Let me go for one more example. Say I have a number called as n is equal to something. Whenever the value was given, I am calculating the binomial expression and I'm giving the result. So 3 times I gave the value and 3 times I'm computing, right? And 3 times I'm printing it. This problem, how we can address better? Instead of doing like that, we can define the function, define like a function and do it. So how I can do? So I can create a function as binomial expression. In that I can pass this context and what are the value you are getting that I can print it. Now you see, so I'm just calling with a number, that's it. I'm not bothered about the entire syntax and entire logic. That is the beauty of a function programming. So this is the very first problem functions came to solve. So whenever there is a repeating code, instead of doing it again and again, we can do it. And let's say one more example, let me take. So first I want to create like say even numbers. Okay. So even numbers between a given range, you want to get the even numbers. Then I have a lower bound and upper bound. So between that bounds, I'm checking and getting all the values using range, and I'm checking if it is a even. Then I'm adding to even and then printing, right? So this is how I wrote a logic. And if I need to do the same thing for another time, so I repeat the same thing. So again, lower bound, upper bound I'll give, and I will ask again the same thing, and I pass it. So in both the cases, did you observe that? So entire logic is same, except the lower and upper bounds. So why do you want to repeat the code again and again? Rather, you can create a function and we can pass the values. So if let's say I'm taking the same function, so what are the common code is there, right? That common code I can take and I can pass like a even function. They like define, so get, so even numbers. So of so it will have like both the values and we can pass what are the content we have. You have content, the content you pass here and you can take it. And what are the things lower bounds and upper bounds you want? You pass like the functions to it. Lower bound, upper bound. If I pass, that's it. And we can just make use of that function and call it. Maybe like instead of the same names, we can give a different names. So like minimum value, maximum value. Because like it's not a good practice to give the same variables which are used inside and outside. So that's why we write like this. Now you see, I defined this functionality. Now I can call this function any number of times with different values. So based upon the values I give, I will get the corresponding result. Now, did you all understand the necessity of a functions? Okay. Now coming to the simple functions. So function definitions. So in a functions, we need to understand that function blocks. There are two things. One is function definition. And the second one is like function call. These are two things we need to be understanding. Function definition and function call. Let's say I have a function which we did earlier. Same thing I will do. Say I write a function. Again diff, I am writing like hello and I'm printing hello world is called. Now we are going for a function call. So a function call can be done in two ways. So, if I have this is a function, right? So if I just print the function, so you get nothing. Let's say I did a function and if I say hello, you get like this. Anytime for any function, when you're executing, if you're getting thing like this, you need to understand that you didn't execute it. So whereas if you want to make a function call, we need to follow it by a braces. So this is called as function call. Now to understand this, whether any object is callable or not, Python came up with another built-in function called as callable. If I pass callable, if I pass this hello object, as it is a function, it says, can I do like, same callable and say true. True is a Boolean value. It has nothing, right? It's not a callable. It don't have function calls. So like that, there is a function to help you to understand whether something is callable or not. So not everything is callable. So what else are callable? Like a functions means like you define something, say a built-in things or like built-in functions are there. So these are all callables. Let's say, so print is there. If you make a call, so directly print if you do, it is a function. And if you make a print with a braces, it is a function call, right? I can ask, hey, is print a callable? Yes, true. Did you see? So whether you define or not, if something is a function, it is callable. Is it clear? Now let me define, like you say, I defined a word is equal to Python, which is a string. And I'm asking, hey, is word a callable? It says no, it's not callable. But if something is saying like not callable and you pass an arguments and they call it, it will throw an error saying that that object is not callable. String object is not callable. So whenever you're getting an exception, or you need to understand why it is coming like this. Next, apart from now you understood how to write a small function. The next thing that you will see is about functions are first class objects in Python. This is another good definition for you to understand. What do you mean by first class objects? So treating and as an on par as existing things. First class means treating everyone in the same way. What is that first class? Means, let's say you have a variable called as integer. Say like number one is equal to some number. So it's an integer, right? So it is a built-in int, float, long, so string, all these things are built-in data types. So for a built-in data type, you get, I told these things. If you want to get the value, type, address, and DAR, you get everything, right? Means it has a particular value, it has a type, it has an address location, and it also have some attributes to work with. Attributes means usage, right? Similarly, in the same fashion, just now we created a hello function, right? In the top. It's a user-defined function, not even like a built-in print. So user-defined function. For user-defined function also, it will give all the things like a function definition, so where it is defined, so type of it called as a function type, and address location where it is stored, and it also has some attributes. Sir, what is the use of a function? Yes, in fact, we will make use of some of them down the line. So the same logic works even if you go for a built-in function also. Means in Python, whatever you take, it is treated like this, like a first class object. So whether it is a built-in function or any object, where everything is treated as a like this. If I ask like, okay, see here, this is like built-in, right? So print is a built-in function. For this also, it is saying it's of type built-in function. You see built-in. So type is built-in function or method. So see, so for an ordinary user-defined function, it is saying just function. Whereas here it is saying built-in function or method and print, and it is also having attributes. So comparatively, see here, compared to the built-in functions where we cannot tweak and do the things, user-defined functions we can tweak and do the things. That's the reason it has some comparatively more attributes compared to us. Hope it's clear. This is called as a first class objects. Next. Okay, now you understood functions. Now functions, how we can pass. Till now you use the functions without any arguments. Let me go to the next stage where you have functions with arguments. If I say like, I have functions with one argument and no written values. So let's say I defined one function. So now a function I define, without any arguments I define. And when I'm making a call also, it will happen and you get the output. In the same lines, if you want to define a function with one argument, we can just pass the argument saying like name, and you can say print hello name. Good, fine. So similarly, when you're making a call to this function, that is more important. So when I'm making a call, if I do like a function call like earlier, it will throw an error. See, every time you should get the errors and you should learn from them. Here it is saying that missing one required positional argument. One required positional argument means we need to pass that value which is needed. So, okay, if I take like, say the same thing, like a hello of Python, I passed it, it will execute. So I passed it and it will execute. Okay, what if this is called as call by value position arguments. Function calls also are like two types. If you see, function calls are of two types. One is like call by value and call by position, right? See here. So there are two ways. So by positional arguments, just now you saw. When you have a single value, you can pass like this. By positional value, you understood and you got it. In the same fashion, we can also do in the other way. As in the definition, we have like a name was defined, right? So I can pass like hello of the name. Means if I pass in that way, or I will do both in one shot so that you will be aware. Same thing here. You see, the name is equal to Python. In both the ways, if I execute also, I get the same result. but it is not mandatory to do like this. But if you are doing, we should give the exact name what is defined in the function. So if I say like, hello of, so name2 is equal to something, say Python, exactly I give, but I told name2 is equal to, then it doesn't work. In the same lines, if you're by positional argument also, when you're passing, say like you are supposed to pass only one argument, means you should pass only one. What if you're passing more than one, like two arguments you pass? Then it doesn't work like that. So this is what you need to be aware of. Now, let's say now you understood how do you define a function with one argument, right? Now let's go for the same thing with two arguments.
Hi, Uday.
Please.
Can you repeat one more time for one argument, the function?
Which one?
The first one argument. You are passing one argument, right? Can you repeat one more time?
Yeah, sure. Say hello of name. What are the name is coming? You are printing, right? Print of. Say something like this, right? We have written in the top.
Yes.
Say hello name. What are the name was given? We are passing and we are using it. Say f. So this is a function defined. There are two ways you can call. So either you do hello of the name, say like Python, or hello of name is equal to Python. These are two ways of doing. This is called as call by position, and this is called as call by keywords. Okay, there are two ways you can do it. But in this also, we should ensure exact same number of arguments as in definition, right? Function definition. You give one argument, you should follow the same. Here, so use the exact variable name. Variable name as in definition. Hope you understood these two.
Yes.
If you violate any of these two, it will not work. Means if I say hello of same Python, so if I give more than needed, generally in C language it works, right? If you give more
Yes.
than what is needed, it will take whatever is need there. But whereas in Python, if you pass exactly only, it will work. It cannot go beyond or it cannot go below. So in the same fashion, if you pass like hello of, say instead of name, if I say name2 is equal to something, so that also doesn't work. Hope it's clear.
Yes. Thank you.
Next, going further. Now function with two arguments and no return. Now we have seen function with one argument. Now we'll go with the function with two arguments. So this time also I define the function. I am passing two arguments, name and age. Name and age. So when you're making a call, so we should ensure that we are passing exactly like that, right? So if you are passing a function with zero arguments, then also it will throw in error, that we know. So it will throw in error. And if you pass two arguments, only it will work. If you pass like, one argument also, so maybe like, if you say good, it will throw in error. So we should give exactly as needed. Hello of, if you say good or one listen, and age is some 67. If I pass, it will give exactly. As two variables are needed, it is doing it. This is call by position, right? Call by position. But the problem with call by position is that most of the people use it. You should be aware of what you are passing. Okay, today there are two arguments, so it is easy. What if there are 5 or 6 or 7 arguments? Sometimes you get confused. Say, what if you give the same values in a reverse direction? Because Python is not a static type language. There is no particular limit on what data type should be passed. It expects two arguments, that's it. If the inner logic works, it works, that's it. It won't even care like Okay, first one should be integer, second one should be float, like that. So see, 61's age is good over one resume, it will come. So that's the reason. So Python came with a typing where, like, instead of just defining the things, you pass on the, definition types also, then it would be easy. So anyhow, I don't want to tell that right now. But see here. So you see, in the same fashion, if you are doing like a call by arguments means, in this case, how we do, instead of just passing the values, we pass in a better way. How we can say hello of name is equal to, so same Gudo one resume, and if I say age is equal to, say, 67, you can do like this or in a reverse direction. It doesn't matter, because as you give to the exact names, it will go in that order only. Hope you understood what I'm trying to say. So call by value position has that problem, so which can be addressed with, so call by keywords. Already saying, okay, so okay, sorry, age, right? So I should give the exact thing. Age, if I give, it will work. You see now? So name also worked, age also worked. So though you have reversed the arguments also, it has gone exactly right. So that is a advantage of going with call by arguments. Now going further. Now let me tell you one more example called as function with two arguments and a default return. Now till now you didn't have a return value. For the first time you want to make a return value. So let's see. Functions till now, when you didn't have a return value, the default return value is a, so n string, means like none, sorry. So when you don't return anything, it is a none as a default return. But if you return something, it will have it. Let's say I define this time addition of two numbers, and I'm doing like some operation in middle. Say like, I'm printing something empty I'm doing, and I'm making a call. So I should see the answer. So when you define something and you're passing the thing, you see now, whatever is coming, you should get it in the end. And did you see in this particular case that you defined and you got nothing, because like you are not doing any logic there, right? Say I'm printing something, maybe like I want to do the addition and I want to get the result. Say result is equal to n1 plus n2.